Doop doop doo 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 doo. Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm doing something a little different from what I normally do. And basically that is I am playing around with a evolution simulator and I'd found something pretty interesting. The little creatures learned how to crawl. So I'll give you a little backstory here real quick. There's this guy on YouTube and what's his name? Carry KH, I think he called him, or Carry Kill Hitler, I think he called himself, whatever. Anyways, so he made this program that makes these little creatures. I'm showing his video here real quick. Oh, I might get in trouble for doing that, and maybe I shouldn't do that. Anyways, check him out. There's a link in the description. Um, I put it to his channel. Oh, that's my own. I put it in his channel, and uh, I linked all the stuff to where you can get this as well in the description. Um, okay, anyway, so what he did is he made this program that makes these little creatures. You can kind of see them here. They're made out of nodes and muscles, and then the yellow things are, I don't know, like feedback loops or something. Like they make decisions. And actually, let me just do this real quick so I can show you. I'll do one generation. Um, Basically, the idea is it makes 1,000 creatures randomly, and then it tests all of them. And the idea is to try and go to the right as far as possible. So here is actually showing a list of 1,000 creatures that it made, and these are like the perfected ones. Actually, I kind of don't want to do that. So, anyways, so it makes all these little creatures, and then it tests them all, and then you can sort them. And there's a little animation that takes 5 million years, so you skip that. And I've been running this simulation for a while, so they're actually all pretty similar. Like they have the same number of nodes and muscles and things like that. But anyway, so it tests all of them. This is the one that did the worst. This is the one that did the best. And then you kill off half of them. But he added in some randomness where a couple of crappy ones get to live and a couple of good ones actually die. That's the ones that are blacked off. And then the ones that are alive get to reproduce. So they make an offspring, and there's a mutation that's in there that maybe it changes the node to get different information, or maybe it changes the strength of the muscle, or things like that, how fast it reacts to things. And anyways, then it tests them all again, and you keep going over and over and over again. So if you do a step-by-step generation, it shows you every single of the 1,000 creatures, and you can fast forward a bit, make it go by faster, but that just seems to take a lot of time. So when you do one quick generation, which, like I said, I just did a second ago, I'll do another one here real quick. It's working on it, it's thinking about it and whatnot. Basically, what that does is it makes all the things and tests them, and then will give you, as you just saw there a second ago, it gives you a list, and if you hover over it, you can see kind of a preview of what they're doing. So bloop, 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 see, it's moving all around. I kind of don't want to spoil it too much yet, so no, stop showing them the stuff. So I'll sort it, and then skip this animation, kill them off, do a thing. So anyways, so he put this stuff, the source code, available online. And like I said, there's a link into the thing there. It's under, the openprocessing.org. And anyways, if you click up over here, you can edit the source code. And I'm not super good at source code things. I mean, I kind of understand how programming works. I did take a C++ class back in college, but as a mechanical engineer, we weren't really expected to do that much stuff. Although our teacher was much harder than all the other teachers. And so the things that we did for our midterm were the programs that the other class had to write for their final, which was like, get it to pop up on the screen and be like, hey, what's the value for X? What's the value for Y? and then like make it multiply them together or do some stuff. Now, our final exam was creating arrays and dynamically allocating memory off of the size of the array it read in from a file, and then multiplying those arrays together, and then taking that thing and then generating random numbers in the same size array and multiplying those together and doing stuff. And I got through it, but I don't really remember exactly what was going on. So it is what it is. No one's saying hi to me yet in the chat. That's fine. But anyway, so I tinkered around with it a little bit, but I don't want to go into it because once I do, it's going to get rid of all the stuff that's been going on so far. And I actually want to let this run for a long time. So actually, I'll show you a couple more buttons here. So do one generation ASAP. When you click that, it basically just gives you the results, and it updates all these charts, which I just pointed at with my finger because I'm an idiot. So it updates these charts that I'm now pointing at with my mouse cursor because that makes more sense for someone who's screen sharing. And anyways, it does all the calculations, kills off the 500, reproduces them, and then it's ready to go again. Or you can, this button here, you click it, do generations as long as possible, and it just keeps running them over and over and over again. And then you can scroll back through here, and it shows you all these different points. So let me go over the chart real quick. It's a little hard to see now that I've run it so long, but basically let's just like jump in the middle part here or whatever. So this part up here, the red line is the median creature distance, and this is the 0 point. So actually it can go negative, which would just be going to the left instead of going to the right. And then it has a line up here, which is the best performer. And then there's thick lines for like the 90th percentile, 80th percentile, blah, blah, all the way down. And then this one's like the 0%. So this is basically the worst creature. And you see in these spikes going way down. I'll explain why that might be a little different than if you watch Carykh's videos. His doesn't have as many of those spikes, and I'll tell you what I changed. So that's that part, and basically the idea is you want it to be going way up, and it's I will admit it's not super impressive yet. It's not going super far, but I'm hoping if I let it run for a long time, it will. Now down here, these colors are like a species, and they're named after the number of nodes and the number of muscles. So like an S33 has 3 nodes, 3 muscles. The evil triangle. They always show up. They always dominate early. And then there's a bunch of other ones. Well, you can see, at least in my example, what happened is they almost completely took over right in here. Almost all. The number next to is how many. So let's see. At the greatest point, they had 822 out of 1,000 were these 3/3 creatures. And then the magenta and the blue still kind of existed, but this yellow is taken over. That's a 5/7. So it has 5 nodes and 7 muscles attached to it. And then it pretty much takes over for a long time. Now, because of the randomness, there's mutations every time you reproduce. Every once in a while, a 5/7 can like grow a new muscle, or I think grow a new node or get rid of a new node. That's actually one of the things I'd like to get into more and somehow get it to be even more random. I'd love to see a triangle give birth to like, an octagon or something. Like just, everything's completely changed. But I don't know enough about the coding, and I've barely looked at the program to really figure out how to do that. So I'm hoping, I've been commenting on the original video and hoping that people who have also been playing along have some suggestions of how to change it, because I just want to see some weird stuff. Like I'd love for like a giraffe to pop out and be like, oh man, it's crazy. Anyway, so as we keep going here, then you see the little purple popped up for a bit, and it started doing good, and then it went down again. And now we're at the point where just about all of them are 5/7s, but it's actually, this one only has 980. So there are 20 of probably these blue ones, but the name doesn't show up unless there's at least 25. Now at each snapshot, it shows you the worst, the median, and the best. And then down here, this is a distribution of all of the creatures, how far they went as a bar graph. And then obviously the red is the median. So you can see, like, when you first start out, the median's basically like zero-ish. Actually, it's negative a little bit, but everything's sitting right around the front. Let me give you an example of what the the median creature looks like at the very beginning. So it kind of just falls down. Now, one of the things, this is where I'll explain how I get these negative spikes. One of the things I added to his program, see, he has the X and Y position, which is basically an average of all the nodes. Like, you take the X position of all the nodes, average them together, Y, blah, blah, whatever. Then he has energy used. And then he added a thing for nausea, which is basically like how fast the nodes are moving around. I don't do anything with it other than it displays on the screen because I don't feel like messing with that to make it not display. You can set the final, what do you call that? I guess the final variable, which is basically the fitness. That's where this number comes from, the 0.078, well, negative 0.078 meters. That's technically its fitness. So one of the things, I basically watched all of his videos last night. I stayed up all night watching all of his videos, and then playing around with this thing and letting it run. All right, so I don't know if I mentioned they only get 15 seconds to move, and that's why if you notice in this little picture, like the background turned dark, like it's nighttime now. And sometimes they'll keep moving even after the 15 seconds. So you can see if it actually is still viable. It could have got further if it was just faster at the start. So here's an example of one of the worst ones. Okay, I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. So one of the things that in his videos was happening is the stuff would start just like twitching around like crazy. And like I mentioned earlier, the triangles, it was the rain of the triangles just wagga 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 wagga, like moving all around. And technically they were moving forward, but it's weird. You wouldn't expect really a creature to move around like that. So he added the nausea thing in so that when you could add in when you're figuring out the fitness, which again is like its final score, you could say like X position, well, actually like average of the X position, and then minus all of the nausea or the total sum or what, blah blah blah, whatever. You could add some conditional things, or you could even set it to where if the nausea is over 10, then like subtract 50 from the fitness and like basically kill the score. Or if it's less than 10, then like do nothing. So it's like you could play around with it, all sorts of stuff. But he was trying to get rid of the twitching and whatnot. What I decided to do instead was basically my final condition is very simple. It's the average of the X position, and then I subtract by the energy used, and I have that multiplied by 0.05, I believe. I will double check and put in the description what that looks like, what the final condition looks like, because I don't remember exactly. I know if you go too much, then no matter how much you run it, there's such a penalty for using energy that the best thing always just flops to the ground using no energy and technically moving like forward a tiny bit. Let's see if this one even fall positive. Yeah. So like this one would reign supreme if that energy unit is worth so much, because it moved ahead 0.25 and it barely used any energy. It wiggled like a little bit there. Anyway, so then as you move forward, you start getting some stuff. Again, this is still lots of different types of creatures. This one's still just flopping. It might have took a while for it to start really get going. Let's see what the best one did back here. So this one's using a lot of energy, but it's kind of hopping a little bit. And it is, so therefore moving forward is counteracting how much energy it's using. And it kind of wiggles around a little bit more. And it kind of, yeah, I don't know, I guess it's still crawling forward. So that's pretty cool. And then at a point here, especially once the main creature kicks in, that's when the median creature is really starting to look a lot like the best creature. So let me jump to like over in here where basically everything's going pretty good. Let's see if I can maybe one of these creatures will be a 5/8 instead of a 5/7. No, these are all 5/7. So let me show you at this point what the best creature was doing. And this is actually why I started this video, because this thing is starting to crawl. Now, I noticed one of the things that Carrie's creatures would do is you'd have one anchor in the back and have a couple wheels or three wheels, not wheels, but three nodes up front spinning in like a wheel like thing. And every time they hit the ground, they pull it forward a little bit. This thing is actually inchworming forward and actually kind of crawling. So, yes, it's using energy, which some mutation might be. I forgot to mention the energy is related to how strong the muscles are. Like if the muscles are tough, that means like they're more powerful, but then they take more energy to expand and contract. So maybe one of these ones will weaken up some of its front muscles because they don't use it that much, and it's really just stabilizing itself with the front muscles and pushing off with the back muscles. Also, the color of these nodes are related to the friction. So hopefully it will get its other back foot to I'm gonna go ahead and start running this as I'm talking, because I've only this is 200 generations. It's kind of just random that I stopped at 200 when I started this video, but I'm gonna let it run for a really long time and hopefully see some really cool stuff. Or maybe something will mutate and grow a whatever a second head and start wiggling around and jumping, and turns out that jumping works better than wiggling, and maybe that will take over. I don't know. But I kind of like watching this thing just go through. You can see the generations keep popping up as they go. It's almost all 5/7s now. 967. So, but again, with the mutation, every once in a while, one of those 5/7s could have a kid that has an extra muscle or an extra node. So who knows? Maybe like you saw the little purple thing pop up. Maybe they'll pop up and survive enough to start reproducing. And if they are just that little bit better, they will end up taking over. So, although, what I found is sometimes when you let it run for a long time, they end up just barely changing that much, because this thing's doing pretty good, like compared to all of its peers, even though the median's only going like 4.5 meters, a little under. And the best one's probably going, I don't know, like 5 or something. I can't really see that graph. It's pretty small. But it ends up just going, well, it doesn't need to radically change anything. Like the inputs and the nodes or the calculations that it does, those don't need to change that much. So they don't. And then you end up kind of getting a stalemate. But because this thing's actually crawling, and I don't think I've ever seen one of his creatures start crawling, I want to keep it running and see what happens. But basically, like I said, the only thing I changed was the fitness condition. I changed subtracted the energy unit. Like I said, I think multiplied by 0.05, just to penalize it a little bit, but not too much. Because otherwise, like I said, if that number's too high, if it's too much of a penalty to use energy, yeah, I ran it for 1,000 generations, and still the best thing was a flopper at 0.3 meters or whatever. So yeah, I finally got someone joining. How's it going, man? I don't know if you missed the first part, but basically I'm running this evolution simulator, and these little pictures over here are showing you these little creatures that are trying to like crawl across the map, or I should say move across the map. They can do it any way they feel like, and mine have learned how to crawl at only 200 generations. So I'm hoping there's like another breakthrough, because like I said, they're still not going super fast. They're not getting that far in 15 seconds. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was pretty neat. So I'm showing it off, and this might be kind of boring, so I'm just letting it run for a while. But I was kind of hoping maybe getting some people asking some questions or something. I'll try and answer the best I can. So there you go. That's that. Let me see actually how many people are watching here real quick. Oh, I can't see because that thing's showing. How many it says here? It says 2. I don't believe you. Oh man, I started 20 minutes ago already? Oh, jeez. This will be long. Oh no, 2. Okay. Me and Rupan. That's cool. Whatever. Yeah, it's free software. The link is in the description to where you can play around with it, but I would first recommend going to the YouTube channel that is in the description. Actually, I put a video of when he finally released the software. He's gone through a lot of improvements on it. In fact, he's actually has a couple videos after the one that I've linked to where he's basically doing the same thing, but in 3 dimensions. And he started adding a unit of like trying to get like a food pellet or something and rewarding the fitness by giving them a food, like how many food pellets they get are the ones that are, stronger to survive. Um, but since you're here now, I will show you what these things actually look like. Like I said, right now I'm doing the do gens a lap, which is as long as possible. So it just keeps running this iteration over and over again. Makes 1,000. Well, it has 1,000 creatures. It runs this little simulation you can see popping up in the box here. This thing's learning how to crawl using these nodes and these muscles, and then it creates a fitness variable which originally was just its X component. So like the further it went to the right, the better. And I added in where then subtracting a factor of the energy used to try and make them very efficient. So they don't just jump around all willy nilly and use up a bunch of energy but not go anywhere. And so when it's done with that, it sorts them out. It kills the worst 500 with a little bit of randomness in there. Like some of the crappy ones get to survive and some of the good ones actually die. And then everything that's left alive gets to create an offspring. And there's a thing for a mutation. And so that offspring might grow a new muscle. It might change a node. And all of these nodes, this is kind of cluttered. His 3D one actually, he takes the stuff and makes it look a little nicer. But anyways, that was it crawling around. And I'm gonna turn it back on because like I said, I'm gonna try and get this to like a couple thousand generations or something, but that might take a long time. I'm just running on my laptop, so I don't know how fast my laptop is or whatnot. But anyways, like each of those nodes has a certain input, like a pressure or a timer or its X coordinate or Y coordinate or this, that, or the other. And then all of those little yellow lines are actions that the thing does, like takes this, whatever this node is saying, multiplies it by whatever the second node is saying, and the output tells the muscle to either expand or contract or whatever. But it learned how to do all that stuff all on its own. The very first ones were just randomly twitching around and falling down. And then all of a sudden it figured out that this certain like, cycle of move this node, then this one, then the other one, then the other, and go back and around and around and around. And the input that allows it to be cyclical like that. It basically it learned that that's the best way to go about it, just all by random chance. So, but this is the free open source thing, and basically, if you click up here, it takes you to the source code, and you can mess around with the actual program. Then you hit play, and it starts the program. But I can't go into that because then it's going to start all this over. And I kind of like that these things are crawling, and I want them to keep doing that. So, but anyways, I recommend going to the guy's videos, checking them out. Yeah, it is crazy, and watching at least maybe like his first attempt, and then maybe this one, like the video that's in this description, just so you know like what the process was, and then you can see he added a bunch of stuff. In fact, there's even stuff in here that he's added like a Y component where he basically adds these like ladders where the nodes can like clip through the ladder going up, but they won't fall back down. So you could set the parameters up to where the creature that climbs the highest is the best. So then it doesn't care about going left, right. So the one that happens to flop around and jump and ends up a little bit higher than all the other ones is more likely to live and reproduce. And eventually, after, I don't know, whatever, a couple hundred generations and whatnot, you'll have something that's climbing up this ladder instead of going sideways. I'm just sticking with the sideways one for now. Yeah, yeah, it pretty much is for little creatures. And one of the things I'd like to do is, like I mentioned earlier, so if anyone's who's watching this after the fact and wondering why I'm repeating myself, it's because I'm talking to one person watching right now and I'm trying to address it. And I don't know if you've watched the beginning part, but I would like to change the randomness by like a bunch. Like I want to see these because you notice the worst, the middle, and the best look about the same. So it's either, whatever. It's just a luck of the draw that the worst one twitches in the wrong way or something. But I would like to see all of a sudden these things growing like two extra arms or chopping the head off, and all of a sudden a really good creature, its offspring sucks. It might still survive to reproduce, but its offspring dies off, and it keeps producing offspring until it produces an offspring that's more similar to it, and then that one survives. So I'd like to see more radical changes just to kind of see what's going on. But I don't know. I don't know what part of the code to change to do that. I'm not good enough with that kind of stuff. So basically all I'm doing now is watching the chart and looking like over here. Obviously I want this to be going way up, and then this graph does rescale once the stuff starts getting a lot better. This down here, I don't know if it's going to change all that much. I mean, you can kind of tell this one blooped up and then came back down. But now that almost all of them are this 5-node, 7-muscle structure, it seems to be king, which is kind of like regular evolution, right? I mean, you have a bunch of different stuff, especially at the beginning, and oh, these ones are doing good. Now they're not doing so good. Now they're doing good again. These purples were starting to go down. They went back up. Yellow kind of stayed about the same. Red just kind of gradually died off. That kind of stuff. And then this yellow, or this whatever light greenish, just all of a sudden right around here, it was the one that learned kind of how to crawl, and then boom, it like took off because it was out competing all the other ones way better. So I don't know. I might have started this video a little early. Maybe I should have let it run for a while. And because you can always scroll back and look at the worst, median, and best creature from any generation. Um, and maybe I should have done that and just kind of got a sampling of what was going on. This has taken quite a while for each generation. But it's testing 1,000 different things, killing off 500, well, sorting them, killing off 500 of them, reproducing 500 of them with random mutations, and then testing all the 1,000 again. And that's the whole cycle of doing a generation. So I'm hoping there's some kind of, quantum leap going on where these things like really get going. And anytime one of the mutations could, change the amount of friction the node has or change the strength of the muscle, or like I said, add or subtract one of the things. But I think those are a lot more rare than just changing slightly the parameters. So it's more likely a muscle will start getting a little stronger or start getting a little weaker than an entire thing just disappearing. Which again is kind of like regular evolution. Like that's, birds don't just automatically like grow a tail and become fish instantly, but they do kind of turn into penguins where they start getting a little more streamlined. It's like it takes a little bit over time, but they don't go crazy. So I don't know. I really like this concept. I want to give this guy credit. So like I said, his name's Carykh Kill Hitler. He's called himself that. So but it's Carykh KH. There's in the description. Check it out for sure. And he's got a bunch of other things. The stuff I really like, he's been doing a lot of AI type stuff. So I'll just talk about his channel a little bit, give him a little bit of a shout out here. One of the things I was watching earlier today, he was programming these like neural networks to make music. And the way that they work is you give them a bunch of sample data, like this is what I want your output to look like. And it basically takes an input, tries to make something, like just randomly make something, and then produces an output. And then it compares the output that it made versus like the output it was supposed to make and go, oh, mine's garbage. Well, what if, it changes something? And it's kind of similar with the evolution type thing is that it changes, one node of, I'm going to subtract these two numbers instead of add them together. And then it does the whole thing and looks at his output and goes, nah, this still isn't close to what it was supposed to be. And the ones he was testing was actually using visualization, like trying to match a picture kind of thing. But he had converted a sound into a picture, where it's basically every pixel on the picture represented a sound, and the y-axis was its pitch, and the x-axis was like its duration or its space and time. So if you read the picture from left to right, kind of like a MIDI thing. In fact, that's what he was talking about. He converted like these MIDI files. It converts. Oh crap. Never mind. I had a missed call, but it wasn't important, and they didn't leave a voicemail, so I'm not calling them back. Anyways, so it plays all of the sounds as the bar is gradually moving over to the right, and he was trying to get it to like create jazz, and some of it was just noise, and some of it actually like it had little pieces of like, hey, this could actually kind of be a song. And there was one of them in there that actually sounded really cool because somehow the computer had learned to do like very repetitive stuff. It's just one instrument, so it's all piano, but on like the lower part of the scale, just kind of going like dun 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 dun, and then the top part is going so dun and it was like, holy crap, that actually like sounded pretty cool. Yeah, it is crazy. This is I don't know, I think I'm helping Skynet become created or something right now. I'm not sure. I'm at least teaching it how to make its drones walk around. But yeah, watching his stuff is totally cool. So let me just well, I don't know. There hasn't really been a major change. I was gonna check in to see what the best creature was doing, but I don't think it's made any huge improvements. And this might be one of those things. Maybe it stagnated at like 5 meters, and it is what it is. Um, so it's not gonna get any better. But I'm hoping by letting it keep going that something will get a breakthrough. So I don't know. It's just like I said, it's pretty cool. I just found the thing, and I was going through some of his videos and stuff, and I watched all the evolution ones. The 3D ones are pretty darn cool. I think it has a lot more power than this one does. This two-dimensional, and like obviously he's working on his code and probably learning computer. So I'm pretty sure he's still in college now, at least during the first parts of the videos where he was like developing this simulator. He would say stuff about, hey, I having to go to school and leaving, like, he didn't work on it for a while because his PC at home is the one that he worked on it, and his laptop wasn't powerful enough to work on it or whatever. So I think he's still in college. If not, he's right, just got out or whatever. Because the videos that I was watching are maybe a couple years old. But anyways, the 3D one is way more powerful, and I could totally want to play around with that. But that one, I don't think he has the source code out like this one is that lets you start messing with stuff. Oh, that's cool. Cooking supper, always good. So these things are still just plugging away. and some of them, like, their starting position or some of 'em are getting a little taller, but again, their basic structure's pretty much the same, and like I said, I don't know, maybe something revolutionary will happen, or they'll all turn into, like, the exact same thing, and the worst one and the best one will be barely apart from each other. Well, that one was made a little bit crazier, worst one. Let's check in here. It's been what, 67 generations since I started this video. Um, so let's check in on this one. So because of its starting position, it's probably trying to do the same stuff the other ones were doing, but its starting position kind of screwed it up where it landed on the wrong node, so it never really got its crawling going. It's just twitching around, still trying to kind of figure it out, and then it ends up actually going backwards in the wrong way for a little bit. And then here it kind of stretches out, and now it's the inputs aren't changing, so it's not telling the muscles to move. And that's one of the things that, because of the way it decides how to move the muscles, it's the medium one. It should still be crawling pretty good. Little rough start. Oh, it's kind of leaping a little bit now instead of crawling. That's interesting. It still has like the one leg that seems strong. It's like dragging that red one. So it's still using the black one, which has higher friction than the red one to really dig into the ground and push forward. But it did a little hop there at the beginning. That was kind of neat. And who knows, maybe we'll get it to be, it starts running like a dog where it's actually tucks its legs up, then pulls them down, then tucks it up, then pushes them down. That would be awesome. That's what I'm hoping, something like that happens. Um, but yeah, it's still, it kind of spins out at first, even the best one. This one's kind of learning, okay, if I wiggle and I push, it's still kind of, I mean, it's lifting that red one up, but the red one's not really pushing off as much. It's more just holding it in place while the black one picks up, pushes forward, picks up, pushes forward. So it's like it's limping, I guess you could say. That node needs to change in to be like similar to the black one and do the same thing. And then it'd be hauling butt. But I'm gonna start making more generations. What kind of math? He has a bunch of different like functions that it does, and those are also randomly generated, but it picks from a list of like multiply, subtract, divide. I think there's a one of them. He takes the sign. One of them it just outputs what it inputs or something. Like, I don't remember all of them. He gets into that on his videos a little bit better. So I'd recommend, if you're actually interested in all this stuff, definitely check out his stuff because he goes way more in depth. Obviously, he created the thing. He knows how it works. I don't understand exactly how it works. I just am playing around with it. And like I said, I found something that, of all the times he was messing with it, I don't think I've ever seen his creatures do this type of like crawl. Like I said, the normally what ends up happening is the back wheel, or I'll call it that, but there's like an anchor node, and then the front ones spin around each other almost like a wheel that's like dragging the back one, and it just kind of scoots along that way as the front ones are digging in and then pulling the back one up and back. So it's kind of like hopping almost on one leg while the fronts are spinning like a wheel, which I can't think of like an animal that would do that. Maybe if it was a rabbit, but the rabbit was taking its front legs and just like doing a windmill with its front legs while it was hopping on its back, and only had one foot, like that would be as similar to what his things were doing. Mine legit looks like a well, kind of like a wounded animal right now because that other node is not, it's not acting the same way as the other one. And maybe there's something in the code where you could add a little more symmetry, because like I know in nature, like a lot of stuff is symmetrical, like along the whichever plane you call it. I forget what it's called. But like if you're looking at a person from left to right, obviously, right? They have an arm sticking out both sides, a leg sticking out both sides of the hip, eyes on either side. Like it's, I don't know, is that bilateral or something? I don't know, whatever. Along the thing that goes in the middle part, it's symmetrical. So you'd be more likely to get like two legs if you could tell it to like have a line down the middle, and whatever it does with the one node, it should do the same thing with the other node. And then this thing would really get going. But I'm not sure if that's how it happened in nature or if it just nature became symmetrical because it works better. And maybe if I let this thing run for 2 million generations, I'd have little frogs hopping around or something that are perfect symmetrical. I don't know. It certainly would take a long time, but yeah, I really like the way that this creature's moving. So I'm probably gonna let it run like all night, see what happens. Well, I don't think I'll live stream the whole time, but while I'm here talking, I'll just sit here and watch it. So yeah, I don't know how long I've even been doing this so far, but we're at almost like another 100 generations since I started this thing. And it really was a coincidence. I didn't even realize that I started the live stream when it was coming up on 200, and I was letting it run when I first started talking, and then I paused it so that I could scroll back in time and show some of the variations, and then how it tends to pick one body plan and then just kind of stick with it for a while. But again, after I run this for a while, I might dig into the program and try and figure out how to make it more random, because I think that'd be neat. And that's one of the things too he added in here. I mentioned about the stairs. He also added where you can put obstacles in the way, like little hurdles they have to jump over, or like ledges they have to climb up. Um, so that'd be kind of cool to put that into the program, where instead of just being a flat surface that goes out however many meters the thing can run, putting a thing that actually like it goes out a little bit, then it goes up steps. Um, that'd be kind of cool. Or putting the ladders in where it can actually go through the ladder and then hang on the other side. But I mean, that's like video game physics, but that's not even like real physics. Like you don't clip up through the ceiling and then you're upstairs. Like you can't just jump real high and now you're in your attic. So I'd rather have steps where you have to get onto the step while you're moving. Remind you of lemmings? Yeah, kinda. They just kind of keep moving, and whatever they run into, they just keep moving anyways. Um, except I don't know. Did lemmings like they didn't change the way they acted? Did they? I don't really. I only kind of remember lemmings that you have to try and keep them from falling off the edge or whatever. But like they don't have them that like start walking faster or slower, or their legs get longer or shorter. I don't think. But it'd be cool. I mean, it'd be a lot more coding and stuff. But I was just thinking about it. If you created the steps that like went up to the right, and then there was a wall, but then there were steps to the left that it could get onto, and see if it could like zigzag back and forth. I don't know what the final condition would have to be. I guess it'd have to be like an XY position. So like the further, well, no, because then you're punishing it for, maybe just take no, the X part has to be part of it because it has to learn to walk away from the middle. The Y component would have to be weighted heavier than the X component, because like let's say it's going up diagonally to the right. That gives it further away from the start. That's a good score. But then if it jumps back to the left, it's going higher, but it's coming back it's getting less X, right? So it's getting punished by coming back towards the start, but it's climbing. So maybe if like the climbing was times 4 and the X was just at 1 or whatever, then it would encourage it to the ones that actually did climb, even though they went back to the left, they got that extra step up, they'd have a much higher score than the ones that stayed on the landing on the right. I know one of the other things I messed around with earlier also is I basically just took the square root of the square of the x component just to get rid of the negative. So that way, the stuff that ran off really fast to the left were just as fit as the stuff that ran off just like super fast to the right. And yeah, on one of those, I had one that's I didn't quite see when the transition happened, but at some point, one of them ran off to the left and like took over, and then every single creature was running off to the left from there. Just like how this one, almost every creature is about the same. It really has settled out. Um, that one, it settled out going to the left, and again, because it didn't get a penalty for a negative number, because the fitness was just based on distance away from the start, then it survived just as fine. I was kind of hoping to see two diverging things, like one really strong run to the right and one really strong run to the left, both being alive, and then like the stuff in the middle that's not surviving. And then that would kind of be a good example of evolution where, a single like kind of starting point then ends up diverging into being two completely separate species. The one, again, like, surviving by doing this one thing and the other one surviving by doing the other thing. Um, I think that would have been pretty neat. But by the time I at least checked in, everything was going to the left, and I couldn't quite find, because at the start there were some that wiggled to the right and some that wiggled to the left, and they both had a good score. But then by the time they were actually starting to move, all of them were moving to the left. So it's like the one that learned how to run to the left really started taking over, and it was competing against ones that were like wiggling to the right. So it killed all of those ones off. So I guess it'd be a pretty hard chance that they would both learn to kind of run almost equally as fast going each direction. The other thing I'd like to do is change the way that the stuff reproduces. Probably, still kill off 500. Like that seems like that's a nice even number. Just kill off the worst half. That's fine. But then have like the number one creature make 10 copies, the number two make 8, and then so, or maybe even do it like if you're in the top 10, you make 3 copies of yourself, and then between 10 and 20, you make 2, and whatever. I don't feel like doing numbers to make sure that adds up to 500, but you know what I mean? Like, and then all of the ones that are they made the cut, but they kind of sucked. Those ones all just make 1 copy to replace themselves, or maybe even have like the whatever, like from 450 to 500. Yeah, they didn't die, but they don't get to reproduce. Just themselves get to stay and try again. And that would be pretty cool. Because even though it is asexual reproduction, like they just copy themselves and like kind of mess up every once in a while, it almost kind of simulate like the sexual reproduction where like the strongest ones gets to have 4 or 5 babies, and the weaker ones, like they don't die instantly, but they don't get to reproduce that year. So then the next year, like they stay in their same form, and they, maybe the strong one dies, they get to reproduce or something. But I don't know what that would do to the. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe once a useful mutation popped up, it would spread a lot faster, because the one that's like if you really are the best, then you're creating the most like you. But then again, at the same time, maybe it would get stuck where, like in this scenario, where the best one is still just doing the same thing it's been doing for the past 100 generations. I mean, the median's barely even going up. So like it's cool that it's moving this way, but it's not getting better, because it's moving enough to not die, and then it makes 1 child, and there you go. Like then it just keeps doing that. So if it could make like 10, then the best runner, within a couple generations, they would almost all be exactly like the best runner. So maybe that's the opposite of what I want. I'm trying to get more stuff to change and come up with weird things. But that might be counterintuitive. But then again, if you do get a fluke where like this one little change makes it become the best runner, then those genes would spread super fast and there'd be a bunch that were like the best runner. So I don't know. I don't know if it would make it change more or less. I have a feeling there'd be a lot more coding that would have to be done, and I don't really know how to do that. But one of the nice things is you mess around with the code because this is like it's hosted on this openprocessing.org. Like you can just quit, and then if you open the window up again, it's back to what it used to be. Because I changed a whole bunch of stuff in it, like I changed the final conditions a whole bunch. What language? I'm not sure. That is a good question. It looks computery, like input, blah, 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 if this, else that, blah, 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 reference function group, so and so. Like it kind of looks like a C++ kind of thing, but I don't know if all of the syntax is the same. But I like it looked familiar enough, like I mentioned before in my college class where, yeah, I took a semester of C++ and that was input X multiplied by this, blah, blah, blah. Reference function like display name, and then you had a little function that was how it displays the name or whatever, all that kind of crap. And it looked like that with the little, dash dash or not, yeah, like slashes, I guess. The slashes to comment stuff out, and then the shit in brackets and semicolons and colons and things. Um, but I'm assuming that a lot of computer languages probably look similar. It's just the commands are a little bit different. Um, so I don't know. Click on the link, check it out yourself, and figure it out. Not doing all the work for you. I mean, you can continue watching this video. I'm just saying that, yeah. Oh, and that was the other thing. I'm pretty sure you have to like have this tab selected for it to like do this where it's running the generations by itself. Because I think I was doing this last night and then like I left the tab open. I thought it would keep running and I went into a different tab. Um and then when I came back to it, it was like still on like the generation it was when I clicked off it. So that's kind of annoying. I wish I could just let this like run in the background for the next week or something, you know what I mean? Just to like really see what like just let it go. But I'd have to leave like not only just my well, I don't care about leaving my computer on, but leave this like browser tab open and let it just keep going. Um, I'm scared to click, but up at the top, like I said, I don't really know exactly what all this stuff does, but like this looks like, like, and then these are probably comments because it kind of looks like a little text box. Not sure what that one is or any of this stuff. And save as fork. Oh, save as fork. I bet you. Okay, let's say you mess around with the program a whole bunch. I bet you could save it as a fork, and then you could come back to like your own program that you've messed around with a whole bunch, and then keep tweaking it. So even though he started it like this is the main thing. If you made it so it's trying to climb instead of move to the right, or you change the fitness stuff that you really liked, then I bet you could save as a fork and then kind of be using your own thing. But anyways, I'm at one point I'm going to click on the little comment. It looks like there's 49 of them, and I'm hoping it's a bunch of nerds that are like, "Have you guys tried using this?" And then it's a chunk of code that's like, "This makes it start flying," or so like, "Holy crap, that's awesome!" Um, So I'm hoping that that's what the types of things those comments are, because I've really have barely messed with it. I wanted to get rid of the little wiggles, and like I said, he tried to do it by making that nausea component and discouraging against having nausea. I decided to go with everything takes energy, but I'm gonna penalize you, you know, a 0.5% by using energy. So if you want to wiggle around a whole bunch, you better be moving while you're wiggling. Otherwise, your score is not going to be that good. And I think honestly, that might be why my things are walking instead of doing that pinwheel thing. Because that thing worked pretty well. And it did go further than what mine are going for sure. But it probably used up a whole bunch of energy. And, they weren't penalized for doing that. Whereas my creatures are penalized for doing that. So I don't know. This is a new adventure for me, and it's just something I've been playing with. I kind of like. Well, so here's an example here. Like the worst creature. I bet you just by looking, it looks like it was very symmetrical from the best creature. I bet it went just as far distance, but because it started pointing the other direction, it just took off in the other way. And I took out the squaring it to make it did not matter if it's going left or right. I took that part out. I could just have easily put it back in. I bet you I'd still get these types of creatures, but I'm not quite sure why I did. I just took it out. So yeah, I don't know if this video is like boring and stuff. Maybe it is. Um, I don't care. I'm just sitting here on my couch, hanging out, watching the thing click by. Had TV on in the background, so I'm good to sit around and do nothing. I don't know if anyone watching this is, but oh, okay, we can talk about that too. Yeah, sure. So it wasn't technically a camping trip, but anyways, yeah, I did go up north with a couple of my buddies, and it was fun. So the weather was freaking awesome. Like each day was like basically sunny, a couple clouds in the sky here and there, and a little bit of breeze, not too much. But temperature wise, the highs were in like the mid 60s. And then at night, it was getting down to like 30 or whatever. So it was cold at night. And it was one of those things where even in the evening, as soon as the sun dipped below the trees, the wind picked up a little bit and it got like kind of chilly, where it's like, well, it's okay. I could probably use like a hoodie or whatever, a little ooh, I'm scared to say this word, but a windbreaker. Now I have to do a quiz. But anyways, that kind of thing. It just got a little chilly. And then it got real cold once the night hit. But yeah, it was fun. I did have to crawl into the house Friday night and fix the furnace. That was kind of annoying. A mouse had gotten into the furnace and chewed through some of the wires, and so the wires were like shorting themselves out when it would try and kick on. Like the initial combustion blower would kick on, and you'd hear it rev up, and then it shut off, and then it'd try again. So I think what was happening is that like it was never even clicking on the pilot light or anything. So I think that then it's revving up, and then the signal wasn't getting to the solenoid to click on the pilot gas and all that stuff and the igniter and everything. So then the flame sensor kicked in, was like, hey, there's no flame here, and then it would shut the combustion blower off, and then it'd go back through the process again. Hey, Nightwolf, how's it going, man? I'm just running an evolution simulator, creating these little creatures that have learned to kind of hop, crawl around, which is pretty neat. And since I have a new person watching, I will show you what it looks like. Actually, I'll show you what it started from. So I'm not going through the whole description all over again because then Rupan would just kick my butt because he's been sitting here the whole time. One of the things, it does take a minute once you start trying to click something. If it's doing its like automatic generation thing, it like takes a minute to stop doing it. But now I can scroll back in time. So I don't know. Let's go to like one of these ones. So basically, the idea is this program creates these little creatures that are nodes and muscles, and they have like inputs, and then the little yellow things are actions that it's doing, like multiplying the two numbers together and telling the muscle, like basically all those yellow ones output to a muscle. So the node is some type of input. Sometimes they're constant. Sometimes they, change based on whatever. And anyways, and then it outputs to a muscle. And the goal is, the way I have this set up is to move to the right as far as possible without using a lot of energy. So basically, to figure out the final score, it takes the X position and then it subtracts off like a fraction of the energy used, which you can see, in this window showing. Oh, I can't like point at the window. All right. Anyways, you can see it on the screen. Energy used is whatever, 1.18 and 2.3, 3.5, blah, blah. So the idea is I'm trying to encourage these things to move, but not just like, this is the worst one. This one just kind of stood. It didn't move much, but it twitched around a bunch. So it used a bunch of energy. And the other problem is it's at a negative X position now. So it's actually like getting a negative score for that and then subtracting even more because it's using up, 150 energy. And as you go through, basically what it does is it takes the best 500, they stay alive, it kills off the worst 500, and then it reproduces the ones that are still alive with like random mutations. So this was right near the beginning. This little triangle kind of flopped over. And it got a good score because it didn't use any energy, so there's no penalty. And, it went 0.07, which is more than 0 or more than negative. This one twitched around a little bit more, but it actually probably got further a little bit. So you can see that, this one's got 4 nodes and how many muscles? 6 muscles. This is 3 nodes and 3 muscles, obviously just a triangle. And this one has 3 nodes but 4 muscles. So there's actually like one of those is doubled up. And it's using a bunch of energy to not go anywhere. So anyways, each time as you go through the graph, the red line's the median, and then this is like the best, and this is the worst one, and then all the ones in the middle are like the percentiles. And it's gotten to a point where basically all of the things, as you see as I scroll through, like even the worst, median, and best creatures are starting out basically the same configuration. That's what this chart down here shows. Each color is like a species. And so like this S57 means it has 5 nodes, 7 muscles. That's the lime green one. And it basically was, dominating all through this part. But then this little purple one, this 5.8, popped up and then faded back away. And now almost all of them are 5.7, although 993. So there are 7 creatures that have a different number of muscles or nodes. But it starts out like super random where you can see there's all these different types. So a 3.3, 3.4, 4.4, 4.5, 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7. So basically 3, 4, or 5 nodes, and then like 3, 4, or 5, 6, 7 muscles, whatever. And very quickly, the ones that are all jumbled up, like they tend to not do so well because they have way too many nodes and muscles that are just wiggling around, using up energy, and it's not going anywhere. So that's why the triangles take over near the beginning. But then I'll show you what this is, the most advanced iteration. This thing has learned, it doesn't have a great start, but it's basically learned to crawl, kind of hop a little bit, and it almost looks maybe like something crawling with like a dead leg because it's dragging that red one behind it. Now, one of the things that might actually help it go better, because the color, like basically the darkness, is the friction involved. That red one might turn white just by one of its mutations, and if it's less friction, it's not it doesn't take so much energy to drag, and that might make the thing go a little bit faster. That thing then surviving to pass on that trait. Um, the other thing is if somehow it magically got the same. I shouldn't say magically. Come on, here. This is scientific. I'm gonna turn the thing back on. Um, but if it, like almost by chance or whatever, got the same like function that tells its muscle what to do as the one with the black node, because that's definitely acting like a leg. That is definitely pulling forward and then extending back out, propelling the entire creature forward. And then it lifts up, pulls forward. You guys know how walking works. I don't need to explain that. But the red one just kind of lifts up a little bit and then goes back down to like hold it in place. So the thing's like limping, it's shuffling. It's only advancing its position with the black node and holding itself in place with the red one, which is good. I mean, because one of the things, I don't feel like stopping the thing again, but if I went back to the beginning, a lot of times you'll see the things will flop out, and then once all the nodes are like laying flat on the ground, there's really no way for them to stand back up because all of the inputs are based on. Okay, cool. All the inputs are based on whatever, like an X component, a Y component, um, and then being multiplied by something, or they're like a constant. Oh, I forgot. I don't need to wear a coat. Forgot it's nice out today. Oh well. Um, but anyway, so basically, once it goes flat, there's not really much that it can do. Although, I mean, theoretically, it should. If I let this run, I don't know, 5 million generations or something, there might be something that lays down flat, and then it learns to like contract the muscles to lift up the middle part, and then lift up the middle part to lift the back part up, pull it forward, push it down, lift the front part up, use the middle part to push the front part forward, and actually inchworm. No, this is not a project of mine. This is building upon something that someone else has done. Hey, how's it going, Russ? Yeah, it is different. So, I keep going back over things. So, look, basically, there's this guy on YouTube. There's the links are in the description to his channel, to the video where he describes this simulator and has a link to like where you can use it and you can edit the source code to change all sorts of different parameters. I don't know enough about coding to mess with it too much. Do you send the data to him? No. He just put it out there for people to play with. He's moved on to like bigger and better things. I found that, like the video where he released this was like a couple years ago or something, and the stuff that he has now, which is not open source, he has these. It's 3-dimensional, and he can add in rewards like food pellets and get the things to really start scooting around and aiming for the food. But sometimes they fall over and then they don't get a good score. But anyways, if you go to this link on this openprocessing.org, the the little dash up here, you can go to that and that will take you to the source code and you can change stuff. Problem is once you do that, then you have to start the simulation over again. And I like what my little creatures are doing. I don't feel like having to do it over again because I might not get the same result because it randomly generates mutations when it kills off half of them, and then the half that survive get to reproduce. Their offspring could have mutations of the types of nodes, the friction, the strength of the muscle, the overall lengths of the muscles, all the different stuff. So But anyways, so I think everyone's now caught up on what's going on. Right now I have it basically auto-generating. So that's why you'll see these, the worst, the median, and the best will be changing every once in a while as it's going through its generations. And these graphs should be changing a little bit. I mean, it's probably hard to see, but this is like, these lines are coming up a little bit as, dang it, I didn't mean to like click. But yeah, here's the worst one, which still hasn't quite figured out that it's supposed to be hopping around, or at least hopping to the right. It's kind of, and see, it's using that front one. Yeah, that one was really horrible. That's definitely dying. Um, but it was using that white node, which has like no friction at all, and trying to kind of drag forward. Now it doesn't know it's trying to drag forward. It's just doing what the numbers say. But that's why it's not moving forward that much when the white one goes back and forth. It's just sliding on the ground instead of like dragging the thing forward like this one, where the front one's dragged forward, the back one pushes off. All right, he's getting there. He's hopping a little bit, and now he's into the limp crawl. So, anyways, there's plenty of stuff to change on this. I totally recommend you guys check out the videos from the guy who actually made this. They're very interesting if you're into like, kind of like AI learning and how to use like evolution to let AI learn. Like, so some of his first simulations, he hard coded a lot of stuff. Like the creatures had an internal clock and the muscles moved based on the clock and things like that. And it's like he didn't have any of these. The yellow lines are the operations that it does. He didn't have any of that stuff in there. So he added all of that, which made it kind of complicated, but he said he did it to simplify, and I kind of see what he's saying is that there's way more permutations now that could happen. And if this thing just learns that, like having two pressure sensors on the bottom and having the pressure multiply by the muscle length or something to contract it when it's pushing against the ground, which lifts it up, and then because it's off the ground, then it extends the muscle to like make it hit the ground again, and like it keep doing that, it would really start hopping. So I'm just letting it run and do its thing. I've seen him do simulations like 2,000 generations and get like some weird stuff. So I'm hoping these things actually get better. They're kind of plateauing a bit. I haven't had much improvement in a while, but it only takes one offspring to grow a second leg or change the function or whatever, and all of a sudden the thing's off to the races. And then that would proliferate through the species a lot more. So before that, I was just talking about my trip up north with my buddies, and I was explaining to Rupan that it was fun, but I had to fix the furnace because a mouse had gotten in there and chewed through the wires, and they were shorting out. So that's always fun, getting up at, I forget what time, because we stopped for dinner and stuff. Like I think I got to the cabin like 11:30 at night on Friday, and it's 30 degrees inside the house because we close it up for the winter. And so I had to mess around with it and get the furnace going. So that was kind of a fun start to the trip. But then Saturday morning, I ended up I'd gotten some wood. I got some 4x4s and some 2x6s, and I already have a berm up there. And I had like a backstop that I buried a couple of 4x4s, but at the time I built it, I didn't have a post hole digger, so they're not very deep because I was trying to bury them between two logs, but I couldn't get a shovel in there real deep. So there with my hands a little bit, and then like just kind of stopped. And then I put these like basically trees that have fallen down in the swamp. I put those behind it. Well, when the sand settled out, like the whole thing tilted forward and it was falling apart, and it was a mess. So I went up there. I had a post hole digger. I had 4x4s. I screwed the 2x6s into the back of them. For the first four, it's about 6 foot wide, by the way. I found some 12-foot 2x6s that were fairly cheap. And, at Home Depot, you buy them, they'll like cut them for you once or whatever. And so I was like, hey, can you just cut all these in half? And the dude stacked a couple of them up on top of each other, sliced through them. Like it was fine. So that was good to go. Anyway, so I got 4 of them. Basically, what did I brew 4? I do 6. Shoot, now I forget. Anyways, the bottom ones are all right next to each other because that's the part that the sand's going to settle out against and push against the wood. And I don't want it like falling through. I'm part of the wood backstop part is to keep the sand backstop from settling out because the sand's always trying to settle out into like a cone-shaped 45-degree angle. And what I noticed is the thing that I originally made that was 7.5 foot tall is like 6 foot tall now because all the rain and it's been through a couple of winters and everything's settled out. So I got that up there to hold the sand back. And then the other ones, like the top half of the 4x4, I spaced them out, I don't know, maybe a foot apart from each other or 18 inches, something like that. Whatever it was, so that I could kind of staple up a target to it where the center mass would be in an open spot. So I'm not hitting the wood as often, so it's less likely going to break, so I won't have to repair it as often. But I wanted to put some staggered because it's like sometimes I use like smaller targets, sometimes I use like the big silhouettes. So I actually have a couple different it varied the spaces a little bit. And then I have one right at the top to keep the posts from swinging side to side. So anyways, I got my couple buddies to help me build that. I was like, hey, come up north for vacation. By the way, we're digging holes and screwing wood into posts and standing it up. So have fun with that. But they helped. They were nice. And then once we got that built, then, well, my truck was already over there because I had the wood in the back of the truck. But I had all the guns in the back of the truck too. So then we just set up our gun table and started shooting for the afternoon. So that was the first day. Sunday, we just kind of like walked around the woods, sat outside talking, just really were like relaxing. We actually didn't shoot any guns on Sunday. And then on Monday, me and my buddy, we actually stayed up north. My other buddy had to go home on Sunday night. So it was just 2 of us up there for Monday. And we basically spent most of the day Monday out there at the shooting range. And then we came inside, ate some dinner, and then like drove home. I don't know. We got home like 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. He had to work first thing Tuesday morning, so I didn't want to be too late. Otherwise, I would have stayed up there till like midnight on Monday and then drove home. Got home at 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever. Have your own land. Yeah. Basically, it's in the family. We have 40 acres. So my dad's got 25 of it, and my cousin's got 15. Or my dad's cousin, whatever, however that works. My dad's cousin's kid, I guess, is actually what it is. So whoever that is to me. But yeah. Anyway, so it's basically it's woods, clearing, and swamp, like all in the 40 acres. It's kind of neat because you can have any experience you want. And there's a creek that runs through the swamp, and it's not very big. I mean, at some places you could almost jump across it. Almost. I feel like it's still wide enough that like you'd get your feet wet. But there are definitely plenty of trees that have fallen down that you can walk across. So you can get from one side to the other. But I'm just saying it's not like a raging river or anything. But I'd say most parts are probably it's 10 foot, 12 foot wide. So, I mean, you have to climb across something to get across it. You can't really jump that. But other times it does shrink up a bit. So, yeah, it is cool. It's very cool, especially since it's been in the family for over 100 years. So that's the part I like about it. It was my great grandpa's farm, and it stayed in the family. But I built a shooting range up there just by taking the tractor, using the front bucket, and basically kind of like scraping the ground until I filled the bucket up and then dumping it, and then backing up and moving over a little bit and scraping the ground and then dump. So it's like I took a couple inches of topsoil off of a large area and got like a huge pile of sand instead of just like digging a hole and then having a pile of sand. Because then now I have like a hole in the middle of the clearing. What am I supposed to do with that? So I need to make that part bigger. I want to make it like, I guess, longer. I mean, if you're looking at it wider, but I think of widening as the width is kind of being like the depth in this scenario. So I don't know. Whatever. I want it to be, if you're looking at it, wider, I guess. Which that's just, I just got to get more sand, which everything up there is sand. So I just got to get the tractor back out and scrape up some more ground and then dump it to the left a little bit. And then while I'm doing that, I'll try and make it a little bit taller as well back in like the middle part. And I might eventually make like an actual like horseshoe berm. Yeah. Exactly what Rupan's saying. He wants to build an underground John Wick video game range. Well, that's kind of why I want to build the horseshoe, is so I can actually do like some IDPA type stuff where it will have like side walls and the back, so then you can set targets up at different angles and move from one position to the other. That is kind of the ultimate goal eventually, but that's just a lot more work. And like it kind of like what with building the berm, it was like a little bit of work Saturday morning, but then we got to enjoy ourselves. So it's either going to take, I go up for a weekend going, all right, I'm going to spend 6 hours on the tractor Saturday during the day and just be working the whole day, or I just do a little bit at a time, spend a couple hours on the tractor, then go shoot a little bit. Then, next time I come up, spend a little bit more time on the tractor and just kind of make it bigger as I go. Oh, you actually make it into a full 360? Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be kind of cool for me to do, is make like just make an actual like berm that goes all the way around, and then just like climb up the one side and down the other. And then once you're inside it, like you have all four walls. I don't know though, because like the one direction would always be going back towards the house or kind of towards the road. And if you end up shooting over the berm, that's not the best. So yeah, I don't know if I'd ever put in a back wall. Like I said, at least a horseshoe, because even if I shoot over the berm, it's going like into the woods, and the likelihood of the bullet like weaving through a bunch of trees like and hitting something is pretty rare. And they're like the on the one side, I mean, there's 80 acres that like no one lives on. The guy who owns it lives across the street on like a little whatever, I don't know, like a 10 acre little thing with his house and a little front and backyard. And then he has the 80 acres like across the street, which is the one that's next to us. So like theoretically he could be walking back over there, but that's why I'd want the side berm anyways. But I mean, it's pretty dense forest, so you know, even if you ended up going over the berm, it's not like it's going far. The only one would be if I put that back wall. Um, the only thing after it would just be clearing, and then the house is right there. So yeah, I don't know if I'd ever want to shoot in that direction, no matter what. Even though I know, 99.9% is going to hit the berm or whatever, I don't like that. So yeah, I'll stick in my scenario where I have it set up. I'll stick with a horseshoe, and so then I can still do like 90 degrees, right? I mean, as long as I don't break the 90-degree rule, kind of like just like IDPA. As you advance forward, you just keep going at angles. That'd be fine. So anyway, yeah, this thing is not getting much better. That's kind of a bummer. Let's see what else we got going on here. 5 people watching. Oh, geez, I've been live for an hour and a half. All right. Well, I actually think I'm going to shut this stream down and I'll leave this thing run in the background and whatnot. Maybe I'll check in a few hours or something. I'll do a little short update because honestly, I did kind of make this hoping that the people that like know about this guy's channel and know about the simulation would find this video and maybe they could give me comments and suggestions of stuff to do. Um, oh, it's a hard question to ask, Nightwolf. What's your favorite gun to shoot and carry for concealed carry? Well, the only gun I carry for concealed carry is my CZ75 SPO1 Tactical. Um, so that's the carry gun I use, but I do like shooting it. I don't know if it's my favorite gun to shoot though, because I kind of like shooting my Kel-Tec PMR 30 just for I'll call it like the giggle factor. It's not the most practical. I mean, it's 22 Magnum, holds 30 rounds in the magazine, but the thing is as light as a squirt gun and is quite entertaining to shoot. Normally shoots off a pretty big fireball. So with that's my favorite gun to shoot, maybe. But then I'm thinking handgun because like I have more fun shooting like my AR and my AK than I do shooting like any handgun really. Like I really like shooting those. Um, I also, although I got crap for it on Instagram, I really like shooting my pellet gun. It's a single, break open single shot with a built-in suppressor, 22 caliber, but it it almost matches speeds of like an actual 22 long rifle. Um, and that thing I actually really enjoy shooting. Like I said on Instagram, they're like, "Why would you bring a pellet gun to a shooting range?" It's like because it's a shooting range on my property. I brought all my other stuff up anyways, and I like shooting stuff. So maybe that one's my favorite one to shoot. I don't know. It got a lot of use this last weekend. I had a lot of fun with that thing because I had dialed in and I was just drilling the pop can just every single time, and no hearing protection. Just goes thump, like it's so quiet because of the built-in suppressor. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this stream down because now we're really getting off topic. I just wanted to kind of play around with these little critters that are learning how to run. So I guess one last time here at well, maybe by the time it stops it'll be 438. But yeah, generation 438. This is the best the thing can do. Still has a bit of a rough start, but once it starts hopping, it gets going, and man, look at him go. The thing actually learned how to crawl. Just needs to learn to stop dragging its back leg. I mean, I guess it lifts that red leg up, but it should learn to push off on it. So I don't know. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this stream down and then I'll see you guys later. I hit the wrong button to stop. I hit stop screen sharing. Okay. Now I'm gonna hit stop broadcast. So I'll see you guys.